For graduates looking to give something back, volunteering, either in the UK or overseas. For graduates looking for graduates looking to give something back, volunteering, either in the UK or overseas. For graduates looking to give something back, volunteering, either in UK or overseas. An understanding of scientific concepts and a basic scientific vocabulary. An understanding of scientific concepts and a basic scientific vocabulary. An understanding of scientific concepts and a basic scientific vocabulary. An understanding of scientific concepts and a basic scientific vocabulary. The United Nations system has been working to ensure adequate food. The United Nations system the United Nations system has been working to ensure adequate food. The United Nations system has been working to ensure adequate food. The United Nations system has been working to ensure adequate food. The United Nations system has been working to ensure adequate food. Business school admissions officers said, the new drive to attract younger students. Business school admissions officers say, the new drive to attract younger students. Business school admissions officers say, the new drive to attract younger students. Business school admissions officers say, the new drive to attract younger students. Business school admissions officers say, the new drive to attract younger students. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech. Where and why they were painted still remain to be answered. Where and why they were painted still remain to be answered. Where and why they were painted still remain to be answered. Where and why they were painted still remain to be answered. Where and why they were painted still remain to be answered.
The United States has the largest chocolate manufacturing industry.
The United States has the largest chocolate manufacturing industry.
The bus right out in front will take you to the station.
The bus will take you to the station.
There will be no classes scheduled during exam week.
There will be no class scheduled during exam week.
Just wait a minute, I'll be with you shortly.
Just wait a minute, I will be with you shortly.
There is only one conclusion to this line of thought.
There was only one conclusion that of thought.
You should inquire about direct deposit.
You should require the direct deposit.
We'll study the following two pictures in the next lecture.
We will study the following two pictures in the next semester.
Please pass these handouts along to the rest of the people in your row.
Please pass the handout to the rest of the people in your row.
The first step was to establish a baseline of known distance.
The first step is to establish a baseline for no distance.
A renowned economist is slated to speak this evening at 8.
A renowned economist will speak at 8.
When demand for the course rose, university authorities took on additional academic staff.
When the demand of the course rose, university will take academic staff. Journey per person per year, Great British. Numbers: walk, car, bus, coach and rail. Other mode. The picture provides information about the journeys per person per year, Great British. If we look at the picture, we can see that the highest point can be found in walk, which is very important to car. The lowest point can be found in bus, which is very important to other modes. If we look at the picture, we can see that the highest point can be found in numbers, which is very important to 17,000. The lowest point can be found in coach, which is very important to rail. In conclusion, the picture provides information about the journeys per person per year, Great British. There are similarities and differences in the picture, and I want to be an expert in the future. There are similarities and differences in the picture, and I want to be an expert in the future. 700. Switzerland languages: German, Italy, French, yellow, green, purple. The picture provides information about the Switzerland languages. If we look at the picture, we can see that the highest point can be found in German, which is very important to Italian. The lowest point can be found in French, which is very important to German. If we look at the picture, we can see that the highest point can be found in purple, which is very important to yellow. The lowest point can be found in green, which is very important to purple. In conclusion, the picture provides information about the Switzerland languages. There are similarities and differences in the picture, and I want to be an expert in the future. There are similarities and differences in the picture, and I want to be an expert in the future. There are similarities and differences in the picture. Volunteer rate: age, male, female. 50%, 40%, 30%, 10%, 0. The picture provides information about the one-tier rate measured in percentage. If we look at the picture, we can see that the highest point can be found in males, which is very important to females. The lowest point can be found in 50, which is very important to 40. If we look at the picture, we can see that the highest point can be found in 30, which is very important to 20. The lowest point can be found in 10, which is very important to 0. In conclusion, the picture provides information about the volunteer rate age. There are similarities and differences in the picture, and I want to be an expert in the future. There are similarities and differences in the picture, and I want to be an expert in the future. There are similarities and differences in the picture. America
What
economy.
has happened in Latin America as a result of globalization? Well, they have had now more than a decade of what is called reform. A decade of globalization. And throughout the continent, people are asking questions like, has reform failed us? Has globalization failed us? Because clearly things have not worked out the way they were told they ought to. Just to give you a picture, they were told that reform would lead to faster economic growth. After a decade, what are the numbers? In fact, recent growth is far slower than it was in the 50s, 60s and 70s before reform. That is not a very inspiring success story. Even in the beginning part of the 90s, growth was still below what it was in the 50s, 60s and 70s, but the growth it got in the beginning of the period was not sustainable, and it was not sustained. Throughout the region, poverty, as measured on the $2 a day standard as a percentage of the population, was actually up.
The lecture provides information about America. According to the lecture, the speaker has mentioned some information about the decades, which is very important to reform. After that, the speaker has mentioned some information about globalization, which is related to workout. And then the speaker has mentioned some information about the economy, which is very important to growth. After that, the speaker has mentioned some information about the beginning, which is very important to poverty. In conclusion, the lecture provides information about the population. We should focus on the information about the population because it can bring a lot of benefit to the human society. We should focus on the information about the population because it can bring a lot of benefit to the human society.
So let me begin with the notion of a dimension. The dimension is simply how many numbers that you need to specify a location. So if we think about the surface of the Earth, the equator is one-dimensional. You need to specify only one number to specify a location on the equator, namely the longitude. The surface of the Earth altogether is, of course, two-dimensional. You need to specify two numbers, the latitude and longitude, to specify a location on the Earth. The space above the Earth is three-dimensional. If I want to tell you the location of a hang glider, I need to give you the latitude, longitude, and altitude. But mathematically, there's no reason to stop at 3 dimensions. A 4-dimensional space is simply a space in which you need to specify 4 numbers to specify a location in that space. A 5-dimensional space would be one in which you need to specify 5 numbers, etc. In fact, I claim you already know an example of a 4-dimensional space. So let's define an event just to be an occurrence that happens in a small region of space at a definite time. In other words, an event is like a snap of your fingers or a clap of your hands. And now the collection of all events, if I want to specify an event, I need to give you 4 numbers. I need to tell you where it happens in space and when it happens in time.
The lecture provides information about the dimensions. According to the lecture, the speaker has mentioned some information about the number, which is very important to location. After that, the speaker has mentioned some information about the surface, which is related to Earth. And then the speaker has mentioned some information about the altitude, which is related to figure. After that, the speaker has mentioned some information about the longitude, which is very important to space. In conclusion, the lecture provides information about the time. We should focus on more information about the time because it can bring a lot of benefit to the human society. We should focus on the information about the time because it can bring a lot of benefit to the human society.
What building on campus can you borrow books from?
Library, library.
In which academic field do people study things that happened in the past?
History, history.
What do you call a person who is receiving care in a hospital?
Patient, patient.
A jar contains 8 black marbles and 2 white marbles. If I select one marble at random, what colour is it most likely to be?
White, yellow, red, black, blue.
Agriculture refers to the production of food and goods through what activity?
Farming, farming, farm.
What part of a guitar do you strum with your fingers?
Right, right.
What official document protects the creator's rights to his or her invention?
Copyright, copyright. Law, constitution. exist.
it seems to me that architecture is very much something that causes us both pleasure and trouble. I live in a part of West London where I feel that many of the streets where I live are really, really ugly. And this distresses me every time I walk to the supermarket or walk to the tube. I think, God, why did they build that? And the terrible problem with architecture is that it lasts so long. You know, if you write a bad book or do a bad play, you know, it'll have a short run and then be shelved and no one will suffer. A bad building has a serious impact for, could be hundreds of years on the people around it. And so I suppose that the book arose a little bit from a kind of frustration, almost anger, that there was so much bad architecture around. And then I realized that if you talk to architects and you say, why are buildings not more beautiful? They'll say, oh, how can you use such a word as beauty? That's a really arrogant word. No one knows what's beautiful. It's all in the eye of the beholder. And I couldn't help but think that actually, well, you know, we all tend to agree that, you know, Rome is nicer than Milton Keynes and that, you know, San Francisco has the edge over Frankfurt. And I thought, well, if we can make that sort of generalization, surely there are some things we can say about why a building works and why it doesn't. And so the book is really an attempt to suggest why architecture works when it does and what might be going wrong when it doesn't work.
In his book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and Other Clinical Tales, neurologist Oliver Sacks relates the tale of a medical student who one day woke up and found that his sense of smell was so acute that, like a dog, he could walk around identifying people, places, and things by his sense of smell. And what a wondrous experience it was. Like a visit to another world, he said. Now, normally, we humans don't have a sense of smell as acute as many other animals. We tend to rely more on what we see or hear to tell us about the world. Still, our sense of smell is powerful. Most of us can detect 10,000 different odors, from cigar smoke to a chlorinated swimming pool, from curry to a city sewer. And think about how a particular odor can instantly conjure up past memories. Maybe it's fresh-cut grass that makes you think of childhood summers, or baking bread that reminds you of a special holiday.
Hello, what can I do for you?
We were hoping that you might be able to give us some advice about accommodation for next year.
Where do you live at the moment?
We're in one of the halls of residence.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
But a few problems. It can get a bit noisy some nights, so hard to study.
Yeah, and also, the internet connection just keeps going down. It's a real pain.
Oh, no, that's not good, is it? So, you want to move out?
Possibly rented accommodation?
Well, it's very common. Most students do this in the second year. It's far more private, you get more independence.
But of course, you have to pay for it. It is more expensive, isn't it?
Generally, yes, but there's a range. Also, you may have to pay for services sort of on top of your rent, like gas and electricity. Oh, and the television licence.
Yeah, but still probably better on balance. How do we go about that?
Well, here's a list of approved accommodation. You contact the owner direct to arrange a viewing, and any problems, just come back to me.
Right,
Great.
you're very helpful.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lead-in time is the amount of time that elapses between a business placing an order with a supplier for more stock or raw materials and the delivery of the goods to the business. Businesses want the lead time to be as short as possible so that they can meet their customer orders and minimise the time between paying for the stock and receiving the revenue from the customer. However, this may not happen due to a number of factors, such as delays in the supplier receiving the order or the breakdown of the supplier's lorries delivering the stock to the business.
The New South Wales government has apologised for yesterday's transport chaos in and around Sydney Harbour during the visit of the Queen Mary II and the Queen Elizabeth II. Roads were jammed, traffic ground to a halt, while train and ferry services were swamped with thousands of additional passengers, with most services delayed for hours. Premier Maurice Humer says that plans were put in place to deal with the congestion, but the number of visitors well exceeded expectations. On the harbour itself, there seemed to be as much congestion as there was on the roads, but everyone agreed it was an amazing spectacle.
So what is wildlife ecology? Well, traditionally, I guess going back to the 1800s and the early 1900s, wildlife ecology was really about the management, or was really wildlife management. And it was about managing species that had economic value or that people hunted. So the people who we consider to be the pioneers of wildlife ecology, folks like Aldo Leopold, really came about at a time when it was all about management. And it was all about managing hunted species. And that's still a part of wildlife ecology. We can't really ignore that. But today, wildlife ecology has become so much more than simply managing hunted species. And really, today, it's about studying the incredibly complex interactions between wildlife and their species and their community members, or the other species with which they live, but also trying to understand the impact of humans, or the things that humans do, the impact of human behavior on wildlife populations and communities, trying to understand more about the economic potential of wildlife in developing countries and developed countries. It's about understanding wildlife disease, trying to understand wildlife invasions and wildlife extinctions. And these are all things that we'll talk about.
It could be an indication of efficiency, but not necessarily effectiveness. The Royal Commissioner in New South Wales followed international principles in recommending that wherever possible, you disperse across a range of institutions those prisoners who were most difficult and most aggressive. Now, the reason for that was to avoid casting some people in such grim terms as to warrant very heavy and indeed previously brutal treatment of those people. I think that principle is still applying in other countries. I think it is still worth upholding here. You see, there is such a strong theatrical dimension to what we're discussing. You create that institution, you enable a previous Premier of New South Wales to say, we're cementing them in. Now, the social climate of the prison is a very fragile thing. If people both display an attitude by that kind of incarceration and then proclaim that this is an acceptable way of doing things, it brings, to use an old Australian expression, the worms out of the woodwork. That tension, that disposition to treat prisoners in ways that are unhelpful to all of us is always lurking there. So I haven't seen it. I would look very critically at it, and I might have to change my mind. But as a general rule, it's much better to disperse these prisoners.
I think there are too many people in the federal parliament ambience at the moment who take themselves extraordinarily seriously. And that's not just politicians. It's a lot of the staff of politicians. The ministerial advisor thing has grown out of all proportion. And you get these, you see them at election times, all strutting around in Hugo Boss suits talking on mobiles. When a politician is seen on the television, all these staffers and so on, they're very self-important people usually. And they all want to be politicians when they grow up.
We see it also in the area of local history.
I'm not an expert on local history, but I have been struck when one goes to find out about the neighbourhood in which one lives, its past and so on. How much of that work has been done by amateurs, non-university?
And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, these are based on childish, visual, slapstick humor, which I think tend to cross national borders much more easily than other types of humor. A man slipping on a banana peel would be probably regarded as funny in many parts of the globe, even if you don't know the man, you don't know what language he speaks, you don't know his culture. He will be probably regarded as funny. So I believe that the popularity of these on the web may be connected to their
We're here to remind you of the most important, essential, and believe it or not, common sense parts of effective selling. Unfortunately, common sense is not always common practice. The basics of sales have been forgotten under a mountain of new ideas and information that were fed in books, courses, and sales conferences.
I mean, it saves so much time if you just include the page numbers for any quotes that you've written down, everything. Have you been doing that?
No, I haven't actually. I've been keeping a note of the books and obviously who wrote them and their editors and things like that, but no, I haven't been keeping the actual page numbers.
Right, well, just from my own experience when I was a postgrad, I found that I just wasted so much time when I had to go back, because the thing is, you will have to revise the work that you do, and you can save so much time if you've actually got all the page numbers written down as well, because it means you can go back to the exact quote that you found and work on it there.
Many graduates of journalism get jobs in the communications field.
Observers waited nervously and with bated breath for the concert.
Rivers provide habitat and migration pathways for numerous aquatic species.